All right, welcome to another exciting episode of the Anime Book Club, better name pending. And the newest manga we've decided on was Summertime Rendering through the vote. It was close with Witch Hat Atelier. There was a little bit of voting fuck-ups in several areas. One was me forgetting to put I Am a Hero with the rest of them at first. And the other was Ace just voting for the wrong things and not realizing but like he didn't want to correct it at all, I guess, for some reason. So pretty based. Summertime Rendering won in the end with, I think, Witch Hat Atelier as a close second. So we'll see if maybe that comes up again in the future. But we got here Summertime Rendering. Now, is anybody here, this has an anime adaptation. Has anybody here actually seen it before? I know I saw a couple episodes of it previously. I don't remember if Shadow was with me when I did. Did anybody else check it out? Or
no? I have not seen it.
Okay. See, you did back in 1997.
So I when this came out, and I think it came out like 2 years ago at this point. No, 2022. It was like spring 2022 it started. So like a year and a half ago at this point. I saw only the first 4 episodes, and I know it was only the first 4 because I was trying to do episode reviews of it for Jotaku, and I made it up to like 4 episodes, and then I just got too busy to actually continue the reviews, so I stopped watching it for a while or whatever. But episode 4 ends exactly where these 2 volumes end.
Oh, convenient.
So pretty convenient. So after this, I will have no idea what's going to happen. So Summertime Rendering. Well, first, let's introduce the people that we have for this session. So we have myself, of course, the host here, Wolfborg. You don't need to know too much about me. You're already here if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, okay? But
we don't know. You gotta give them the lore.
What more do you need to know? Go fucking click on my nice subscription button. Go watch my other videos, okay? They're all bangers. Become a member whenever I figure out how to turn on the YouTube membership button without it being a fucking Patreon. I don't know why they want me to make it like a fucking Patreon, okay? You're not getting too much extra bonus memes. You could give me money if you want or don't. All right?
Shit.
You get my content. That should be enough. That should be more than enough, okay?
I've been a loyal subscriber accidentally for years now.
Amazing. Next we got JustSin. JustSin.
Yeah.
Why are your goons not as hard as mine?
Yeah. Okay, that's all you
Yeah.
Anything else you want to shout out about yourself? Anything you actually feel like doing with your channel and stuff like that? Or
yeah, go follow JustSin on YouTube. It's not follow, it's subscribe, right?
Yeah, it's subscribe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good at this.
Are you gonna actually be doing content anytime soon on there, or?
Probably fucking not.
But subscribe to it anyways, okay?
Yeah, subscribe to it anyway.
You never know. You might get a surprise ping saying, hey, he's got a video.
In 2 to 3 years, there may be me shitting on Death Note, who knows?
You guys see a review from him on that channel talking about how much he hates Togata from Fire Punch, okay? He's got a lot of opinions, at least at the beginning. So it's okay.
At least at the beginning.
All right, so moving on. Now, NyanBacon, introduce yourself for the stream.
Hi, I'm Anne or Andy. All of my social media accounts are NyanBacon. I actually just posted a new animation video today to my YouTube, so you should check it out. And I do art. So maybe there will be some Summertime Rendering fan art coming to my Instagram, NyanBacon_official.
Oh, damn, that would be awesome. I did see that notification about the new video, but I was setting up things, so I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. So shout out to all that. Go check those out. Big W's. All right, Shadow, what do you got for us?
All right, so I got Twitch. Here's the link. I sent in the chat. We just finished Mega Man the arcade game just before we started the stream, actually.
Wow.
That's why I was here kind of late. Well, I mean, like, just on time. And then actually, right after we're done this, we're doing Balneric 2 with Ron. We're in for that.
Go check out Shadow's Mega Man gameplay if you're ever interested in those. Check out those streams and all those memes. And then we have Turandot. Is that how you pronounce it? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Turandot, and I pretty much just read. That's about it.
That's all you really need to know to be here. So there you go. All right, so let's get started with Summertime Rendering. So like I said before, this did have an anime adaptation before. Only seen a couple episodes of it. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but I do want to mention that was for some reason one of the first anime that Disney Plus picked up when it decided to start licensing anime. This was like their first exclusive.
Along with Corey House, right?
Yeah, of course. I don't know why they decided to choose the fucking murder fucking the kid mystery. Children murder mystery on a fucking deserted island on Disney Plus. Hey, whatever.
Hey, Black Rock Shooter, so could be
True.
worse, I guess.
I mean, they were also doing the weird thing where technically it was a Disney Plus thing, but they didn't actually add it to Disney Plus. It's the deal they have with like Hulu, where like a lot of the Disney Plus anime for some reason just go to Hulu here. If you're not in the US, it goes to Disney Plus. If you're here, it goes to Hulu. Don't know why, but they did that for Heavenly Delusion as well.
Why?
I don't. It's some
just
kind of deal they
licensing
have.
issues, right?
Yeah, it's some like licensing thing. I think they did the same with Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, which I still have to check out the dub for that at some point.
Goofy.
Okay, so that's the summertime rendering anime stuff. I'm not going to talk too much more about that. What I do want to bring up quickly is the author. They don't have many works under their belts. A lot of them are like very short one-shots up until this one, which I guess was their like most popular work so far.
Same thing with Fire Punch, right?
Yeah, I guess so. From what I remember, Fujimoto pretty much before Fire Punch, he just kept making a bunch of one-shots. So I guess that, yeah. From what I remember.
There's a pattern.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to bring up, actually, and you'll probably think this is funny, Shadow, the fucking summertime rendering author started as an assistant for JoJo Steel Ball Run.
Oh god.
So he was an assistant on Steel Ball Run at first. That's like his first credit.
Why me? Why me?
Because you're the JoJo pro in the fucking
I'm
server.
not. I'm the Mega Man guy.
You're both. You're the only one who talks the fuck most about JoJo in my server.
That's kind of sick. You wouldn't be able to tell based on their style. I mean, Araki's is pretty iconic.
Yeah, I don't really know how Steel Ball Run's manga looks particularly.
Look, my friend said it's the best manga he's ever read, so you know.
It looks like a steel ball that runs.
Wow, based.
Baller.
Anyways, so he started with that, and then eventually he made some other series called Jamas Vu or whatever, which is, I think they call that one of the episodes of Summertime Rendering, and it's basically a very similar premise where like there's another Earth that they find that's full of aliens that look exactly like them and try to kill them. So it's a little prequel one shot. It's a one shot though, so it's not like it's like a whole series that he's trying out again. So I kind of give it a pass or whatever. Yeah, so he's tried this idea before, and I guess he really liked the idea to the point where he wanted to mess around with it a bit. And so for this one, they decided to base it on like that similar kind of premise with a sort of ReZero kind of twist to it and like a small island, like small village kind of vibe. So it's like, to me, when I read Summertime Rendering, I just think it's a mixture of like ReZero and Higurashi. And I mean,
I can see it.
I think that's a cool like
I see
mixture.
the Zero part. I don't know what Higurashi is.
Well, the Higurashi would be the like time loop murder like fest kind of deal, which I don't think,
Yeah,
I don't even
children
know.
getting stabbed in the throat part would be the Higurashi part. Repeatedly.
Right. The island is like based on it's not a real island, but it's based on a real one. But the real island doesn't actually have anybody that lives on. It's like an abandoned island that used to be like some war-related thing or something like that. What do you mean spoilers? This is a real fucking island. What do you mean?
Everyone on the island dies.
Oh, yeah, that must have been what happened. Yeah, totally. This started releasing in like 2017, so it's fairly recent manga, and then it ended in like 2021, so that's about a year before the actual anime started. So this is a fairly recent manga, and as soon as I saw the first couple of colored pages with the art style, I'm like, this is really fucking amazing looking. I thought it looked really good. I want more colored pages from this artist. Every cover of this series I think is fucking great.
I actually had something that I have a lot of things that I want to say, but
Yes,
I had
yes.
something that I wanted to say about the colored part. In general, throughout the entire manga, I think that the like pixelated like error in rendering is really cool. But the way that the first part was drawn made it look like the main character Shinpei like was recording it on a camcorder or something.
Right.
And that's not the route that it took. But I feel like that would have been an interesting way to end up doing it, is if like Summertime Rendering had been literal, like he was taking like a video of everything that was happening. But that was just like my comment on the first chapter, is like that was the impression that it gave,
Right.
which like I didn't mind the subversion of expectations, but I kind of liked the idea that it was originally in like first person.
That is a really cool concept. In fact, there is a artist I know who did that concept, and his name is Tatsuki Fujimoto, and it was called called Goodbye Eri. It's a very amazing one-shot, which is literally filmed like a found film, what is it called? Found film footage thing?
Found footage.
Found footage, yeah. It's a manga whose just entire thing is just found footage, and it has a whole bunch of cool concepts, and it has a physical release, and I have it, and it's amazing. I even did a video on it. It's great. So if you are interested in that idea, definitely check that out, because it doesn't have the murder time loop stuff, but it has its own interesting kind of ideas with it. So if you're interested in a first-person manga, definitely check that out. You were mentioning that because of like the initial color pages looking like that, and that was supposed to be like a dream sequence, was kind of like it was viewed like that. The one other thing I will bring up that has to do with like, I guess, you know, the main character's perspective of these events or whatever. You know, after that first scene, you don't see it from his view, but she does something to him in the first scene. He's like, close your eyes or something like that, and something happens. He doesn't know what happened or whatever. And it probably had something to do with the fact that he has this power now that we find out about later. But what they make apparent in the anime that's like less apparent in the manga, I mean, it's sort of kind of apparent later on once the looping starts, is one of his eyes just has a different color, but it's never addressed at the beginning of the anime. So you just assume he's always had two different colored eyes, like heterochromia or whatever. And then like after the first one, he's like, wow, my eye looks different, but it's like a very, very different color. And it has been like the whole time. I don't know why they did it like that in the anime. It just never kind of addressed it. But in the manga, it's kind of like less noticeable because it's all gray anyways. So
yeah.
I noticed it because it's very main character syndrome.
Yeah.
But that answers one of the questions that I had on my notes.
So before we start answering those questions, I guess for the sake of the video and the people watching who might not have fully read the series themselves or whatever, let's just briefly talk about the overall premise and like what happens, I guess. Shinpei has been gone from this island for what, like 2 years or something like that?
Yeah, 2 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And he returns back because the woman in the cover here, Ushio Kofune, she has passed away, and he's coming back to the island for her funeral. He has a dream sequence with her, and it was like weird to him or whatever, and he wakes up and immediately puts his face on this woman with glasses like in her chest on the ferry, and she smacks him as like the opening scene for him. So you had like this opening shot with like this woman in like a fucking swimsuit, and then he's putting his face in a woman's chest, and then he gets off the boat, and immediately his like childhood friend drives down on a bike, flashes her panties as she's like flying into the water because she just like hit her bike or whatever.
At this moment, I realized it's gonna be one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, I had the same thought.
I was worried about that, and then there was like very little of that past that initial scene.
Yeah,
I like how unfazed he was genuinely by all of it.
He was just like, yeah, this is normal.
And like the comment that he had later about her panties was literally like, oh, she had the same ones in the last loop, and that was it. That was all he said about it. And I was like, you know what, dude, I admire you.
Listen, it's important, okay? That's how you identify that. It's very important. It's integral to the plot, all right, to see those panties. Okay? So those events, I guess I understand why they're in there in the story, because they're supposed to stick out to you as like these starting things, so that when the looping starts, you start to realize, wait a minute, this thing was supposed to happen beforehand. Yeah, we've been here before, and this thing was supposed to happen before. Why didn't we see that happen again? And things like that. And that's where
it could have been anything else, though.
That's true. I'm assuming because, you know, like we said, there isn't any like fan service like that as much any like later on, other than like a shower scene with Mio or whatever. Other than that, like you don't really see it. So I can only really assume they did that to try to like, you know, instill that kind of like, oh yeah, this event happened towards the beginning, so you don't forget the beginning events or whatever. I feel like it's kind of a cheap way to do it, but whatever. Okay, that's fine. We get the quirky fan service out of the way for the horror that's about to begin. The bloody horror, very bloody horror. So he's there for the funeral. He's an orphan who's been adopted by the Kofunes. So they pretty much grew up together. They do the funeral. He meets up with his childhood friend. Ushio died from trying to save this little girl who was drowning. He finds out that Ushio might have actually been murdered. What was it? They found strangulation marks on her or something like that?
Yeah, on her neck.
So they don't think she drowned saving the little girl. They think she was murdered. And then it's revealed later that it was probably a shadow version of Ushio who looks just like her, because they saw a woman who looked exactly like her. And this is where we find out the antagonists are like shadow people who look exactly like the people on the island. And once the shadow has your identity, they try to kill you so they can take your place, pretty much.
I actually had a theory about that. So I don't remember what the little girl's name was. Who
it's like
was
Shiori or something like that.
Shioni or something like that. My thought, and I had this thought at like 11 p.m. last night, or like the night before. My thought actually might be that it was her and her shadow that killed Ushio, because by the time we get to the funeral, she's already a shadow.
Right.
We don't know what happened to the original little girl. So either the original girl like drowned and Ushio didn't manage to save her, or I was thinking that it's possible that that girl's shadow was actually who killed Ushio.
Right. I was thinking things similar. What I thought had happened, and maybe there's going to be revealed to be some kind of switch, because we do meet up with Ushio's shadow later on, and they don't remember anything that's going on. When we do that, my initial thought was maybe this is actually Ushio. She killed her shadow, and then doing that actually did something to her memories or something like that, and this is actually Ushio, and that she killed the shadow or whatever. I don't know. But then the other shadow people just basically say that she's a traitor. So it sounds like that she's actually one of the shadow people, but there's something weird going on with her and her memories. So I don't know. Maybe it's something like because she died and the shadow didn't like eat the body or whatever, you have to do that to like complete your transition. And if you don't, you don't really remember it. Maybe they like, flashed to get their memories and then didn't eat them. So they just, I don't know, something weird.
I have another comment about that.
Yeah.
For those, again, who haven't read it, later I think it's when he's going from the second to the third time loop, Shinpei, again, actually in between every single time loop, Shinpei sees Ushio in the time travel process.
Right.
Which I think was weird and atypical because she's the only one he sees. So my thought was the idea that maybe Ushio and her shadow were somehow related to the time travel thing, which is why it would have fucked up her shadow's memories, because somehow she's like getting caught in the crossfire of like Shinpei's time travel. My other point out about that was the fact that she had blonde hair and the fact that she was considered like a foreigner. It's like it's passed off as an explanation that she's a foreigner, but like maybe there's something more going on there. And the fact that she does seem to have some ability to either sense or become part of the time traveling. I feel like it's possible that that might be part of why her memories are so fucked up. But I hadn't considered the consuming of the body to be part of it.
Yeah, I do remember they pointed out something, and I don't know if it's going to come into play symbolically later, about the religion on the island and their concept of like objects that drift ashore. They like keep it and then burn and all, and like the ceremony as like a kind of thing for the gods.
Right.
I was thinking that, and I was like, oh, Ushio died, and then they brought her on, and then they cremated her body. Maybe that's something that's some like part of the religion is playing into it or something like that, because we definitely have some weird like deity and god shit going on with like the mother shadow thing or whatever. So
well, that's funny that you bring that up, because the end of chapter 20 shows her shadow also being washed up on the beach.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of like interesting angles with that. I think we just kind of jumped into it, but Shinpei starts time looping because of like his eye thing that he has. Apparently that's related to the mother shadow or whatever. There's like their eye, and for some reason he has the power of their eye, which allows him to time loop. So whenever he dies, he actually just resets back to like July 22nd when he shows up. But it seems the more he loops, the further ahead in the timeline he resets to. So certain things that happen, like at some point he tries to block Mio before she falls into the water on her bike, and he ends up going into the water too. And after like, I think the third loop, he's like restarting after that event. So like that event is now permanent. He can't like undo that anymore. So we have this ReZero element, which I was a little worried about, because in ReZero, there's some tension with ReZero, but most of it is just how Subaru is going to get out of the situation, because at any point when he dies, he resets back to like the same exact point, or like a checkpoint that's established later that he can do things at. But it's not like something that like forces him forward each time he does it. It just sucks for him to do it because dying hurts, and that's something that fucks with him psychologically. I was like worried, like, you know, that okay, so if he just keeps dying, this is basically gonna be like fucking what's that Zelda game, Majora's Mask or whatever kind of deal, or ReZero kind of deal, where like you just reset all the way back to the beginning. You know all the events are going to happen. You can change things around, see what different result you're going to get. And if you can do it as many times as you want, then, you know, who's going to stop you? But now you have the ticking clock element to it, which for most protagonists would make things far more difficult. Except Shinpei is actually a smart as fuck protagonist, which was refreshing to see.
Yeah,
Finally!
This is like, I think the first time I had a character be in a time loop kind of situation, and he didn't freak out for. Yeah, he wasn't freaking out about the whole thing for like 3 volumes before he started doing shit. Like, I think immediately after on the second loop, he was like, okay, I'm gonna record the shadow that's murdering people or something like that. So he knew Mio's shadow was gonna show up, so he set up a camera. He like accounted for everything. He was like, I'm gonna erase all the files on my phone. I'm gonna set it up in this one location. I'm gonna turn off the ringer. I'm gonna set to airplane mode. I'm like, god damn, he's going through like all the steps to make sure he's not caught.
Cooking.
Holy shit. But the downside, which made it interesting, is Shinpei's shadow is also really fucking smart.
Yeah.
Especially when he flashes and gains his new memories and realizes, oh, you're time looping, aren't you? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah,
Oh
he-
no.
How many times has he done this
Intelligence,
shit,
too.
eh?
I ended up leading to a conversation that I had with my supervisor about how horrifying, like we were talking about horror films in class and sci-fi horror, and the fact that one of his least favorite movies is The Thing, because the horror gimmick is the fact that it can copy people. And he was talking about that, and I was like, yeah, this manga that I'm reading is arguably even worse because they copy your memories too. So you
Right.
can establish a safe word, but now they know the safe word. And
Yeah, I thought that was funny at first, where they like established the code word and then they tried to use it, and he was immediately like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about?" Or, like he was like busy in his room and he didn't actually say it, and they passed it off as a joke. And I was gonna be like, "Oh, so they're not actually gonna take the safe word seriously or whatever." And then they do later for like a scene. And then it turns out at that moment, you think everything's fine. But then it turns out that's actually the Shadow Shinpei who knows the code word. And then you find out Shinpei just got swapped like 10 minutes ago or so like that. And I was like, oh, damn, this is what we're doing with that. Holy shit. It kind of gets me really, really hyped to find out, like, because I was worried, because I'm like, all right, we're seeing like the climax of the Shadow's plan already, like 2 days into being on the island or something like that. Where are you going to go from that? But now it's like they have these like back and forth kind of like, you know, mind games with each other, having to do with like the memories and the events and the time loop limitation. And I don't know what's going to happen. I am still concerned about the time restriction because it seems like they end everything at the ceremony. So I am still worried about the time limit that he kind of has.
Yeah, it seems like a really short time. So it's what, he's
But-
got 2 days till ceremony, right?
Right. But we also have 13 volumes. So I feel like they come up with something to keep the story going at least. So
The other thing I noticed is that after being told that there's a limit to his power, not only he noticed that there was the latency, but that next loop was the first chapter where he threw up afterwards. And my question was like, is that a shock response to the fact that he just died? But like that arguably wasn't the worst death that he had. The worst one was probably the choking to death on his own blood. So my thing was like, is it possible that as it goes on, his physical health is also going to deteriorate and make things more difficult as it goes on? Because it's like burning up his body.
yeah, maybe.
It's some dying repeatedly would.
At the very least, you should be like psychologically fucked, like eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that happens in Steins Gate for like when he gets stuck in a loop to like pretty much try to live the same exact day to live peacefully to keep Suzuha alive or something like that. And he loses his fucking mind. He goes crazy. In the visual novel, it's like way worse with where his mind goes to too. You know, and then in ReZero 2, he has like entire breakdowns where he's like, I can't fucking do this. This shit hurts. Everything I do feels like I can't make any progress towards this. I don't understand what I can do to make things better. And like for Shinpei, it's even worse because every time he fails, he's losing another like more time. It hurts and he's losing time, and like that's gonna fuck him up.
I literally have a note on here that's just the conflict escalated very abruptly, lol, which you touched on. The fact that suddenly you're at like the climax of the conflict in like volume 2.
Yeah, I'm worried about that. Like, is there going to be some what the shadows are doing? Does it have to be during the ceremony, or was it really convenient for them just because they have a lot of like bodies to like collect at that time or something like that? Because I'm assuming the next step in Shinpei's plan will be to do something to try to get the ceremony canceled or like pushed away for some reason, because I can't imagine what else you would pretty much do to stop the shadows there if you know that that's where they're going. I don't know. Anything could pretty much happen at this point, but now it seems like he's going to meet up with the lady with the glasses because she shows up with a shotgun to save him from the Mio shadow, and basically sort of explains what's going on with the shadows, because she's the author of this book, the Swamp Man book or whatever, that he actually read and thought that he had just like had a dream based on, which is basically the same exact premise, like shadows show up, take over a village or whatever. You know, it seems like that book was actually just written from a real account that she has from it, because she definitely knows that these are like creatures that exist and she's there to like try to exterminate them, I guess.
Non-fiction.
Yeah, pretty much. I fucking love her character design. Don't know what the fuck she's talking about with the food ramblings.
No, it all makes sense eventually, probably.
Also confused with like the recordings. It sounded like they were to herself, because I think she was saying her name, but I don't, but like she didn't like just say like a note to her. She said like a note to like the author's name, but like the author's also her name. Maybe she's not actually the author. She just told Shinbei that that's her name or whatever. I don't know.
Interesting thing. Her age is the only one not disclosed in chapter 20.5. Which I thought was interesting.
I'll never tell.
Well, you know the 3 questions you ever ask? That's one.
I think the food ramblings is really interesting, and obviously this is the college kid like analysis, but it kind of serves as a way to remind you that like she is a tourist on the island, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a really interesting juxtaposition where she'll be talking about something that she hasn't experienced in the middle of her like killing these shadows that she's obviously familiar with. So I think that's an interesting character quirk that they incorporated.
One thing I did want to bring up, because it seemed like, you know, when things loop, different events can happen. But I think on like the first time before he even started looping, they had somebody come into the restaurant thinking that he was asking for that woman with the glasses already. Well, they described it as the woman with the big breasts or whatever. But it sounded like the restaurant owner was talking about some other loop that's happening later.
It sounded like he was. I agree with you.
I thought it sounded like that, but then it could have just been Shinpei's shadow, because this is the day after the funeral. But then I was thinking, why would that shadow have even known about the glasses woman if they don't find out about that until later? But then again, we have time travel antics, so I guess anything could have happened later on.
So she mentions, she mentions that she's been to this island before,
right?
So I would imagine that if it is a shadow, like you suggested, they probably have experience with her in the past.
I see. Well, so considering she's hunting them, probably, yeah. Yeah, I did think that made sense with like, she's like, oh, the human bodies you see from them, they're actually just like, they're not their actual body. It's like a puppet or whatever. Their actual body is their shadow. So you just, and that apparently is like their weakness. You just hit the shadow on the ground directly. I think that's weird when it's like nighttime. How does that work? Are they just everywhere?
So actually, so I have 2 points on that. One is that I thought it was interesting that so far the only way that you see them killed is with shotguns. You see it with the nature guide too, at the end of the volume.
Yeah,
so
right.
I kind of noted something like is the only way to kill them, because the nature guide also mentions that he's seen them. So now I'm sitting here like, is this like a supernatural like you can only kill them with a certain kind of like shotgun bullet? I'm sure that that's not the case, but I thought that it was interesting.
Shotgun's just effective.
The other thing that's fair. The other thing that I noted is they remind me a lot of the Vashta Narada from Doctor Who, which obviously this was published afterwards. I don't know what the guy's inspiration would have been, but in Doctor Who with the Vashta Narada, you can't touch shadows. That's how they attach themselves to you and end up consuming your body. So maybe it's possible that the nighttime, like you were saying, like they're everywhere at that point because they have the ability to travel without necessarily needing a body at that point.
Right. Like it seemed like the body is just something that they use to like move around the place during the day more easily. But I don't know. I have various questions about that because obviously in their actual shadow forms, they can't do anything. So that's why they have to manifest as like these real people so that they can actually do things to people.
No. Because there's that shadow at the end that is able to form a working shotgun out of his arm.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
I think it might
feel
be the
like
exception.
I feel
That's
like
like a
that
big
giant
shadow.
boss. Yeah, the
Yeah.
giant shadow thing seemed like a weird like collection of like all the bodies that they had piled up or some shit like that. I don't know. It like I just mean like sure they can manifest as these different things, but like it still has to manifest in a physical way. It sounded like it looked like a giant like black blob of things that was like moving around as opposed to like kind of like a a shape on the ground or whatever, the shadow or whatever. Because I try to think to myself, like, if I'm a shadow and I want to take over the place, if I could kill people in just my shadow form, why would I ever want to do it in a human body? If I'm just a shadow that can like take over fucking people or like attack them as a shadow on the ground, what are they going to do to stop me? They're not even going to realize it's happening until it's too late. So that's what makes me think that like they have to assume these forms to kill people so that they can like, because they can't really interact with things physically other than doing that.
I
But
think
I
it's
don't
more
know.
than just power levels. Like
Maybe.
some of them are just stronger.
Right. There's a lot for us to learn.
So early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot for us to learn, and we got 13 chapters to learn, and so I'm sure it'll be explained later. These are just some initial questions. For this, I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of time for answers for those kind of things. I am interested to learn about crazy old guy on the island.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, that guy seems like it's gonna be interesting. I feel like that maybe the old crazy dude might be like I was here before everyone else, and that some of the island is like
1907.
newer, and like the knowledge he has from what he's seen is what's driving him crazy type deal. Like how like the
Yeah, he's the quirky sensei character.
And his grandma, he's heard about the shouts from his grandfather, I thought he said too. So like it's been like through his family. Like, goddamn.
Also very suspicious that he's missing one of his eyes. Just pointing that out.
Ooh, I
look at
didn't
that.
even notice that, but ooh.
I was thinking, I have that written down as like, wow, it's really suspicious that the mother, Shinpei, and this like guy who seems to know a lot all have like the motif of the mismatched eyes. So there's that.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
the mother I assume has the mismatch eye because
Yeah.
Shinpei has one of them.
What were you saying, Turin?
I was going to point out there was something interesting where we saw the shadow in the wheelchair. I thought was interesting.
Oh yeah,
Shadow in the wheelchair.
at the very end of the last chapter.
Yeah.
There's a shadow that looks sickly, like in a wheelchair.
Right, yeah.
Huh. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's Grandpa's shadow.
It's you. You were the villain the whole time, weren't you, Shadow? It was you.
I do it.
This is
Hold
Canada.
on.
This is Canada invading a small Japanese island.
Now that
I knew you bring this up. Okay,
Is that why they talk like that? Is that why they talk? Do they talk with a Canadian accent? Is that what's going on here? That's something I want to talk about too. Okay, I understand they're supposed to have a Kansai dialect or whatever.
oh my fucking
Why
god!
did they translate it like that in the manga? I'm hearing them
so
say
annoying to
"woke," and I'm
read.
thinking it's like a fucking Wisconsin accent, and I hear them saying "just do this" or whatever, like JES. I'm like, why didn't you just write JUS if you're doing it? I don't know. It just annoys me for some reason how
My
they
brain
decide to do
hitches
it.
every time they try to do the accent.
Yeah. Yar doing
one
this.
The one that annoys me most is Yar because I read it as Yare. Like yada
Oh,
yada.
yeah.
That's what I assume it is.
For me, it's either yare or it's yar, like a pirate sound. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yar
it was
won't K,
yar.
right? Just say it. Like a Kansai accent is supposed to be, like the Japanese equivalent of like some country accent, right? So, I understand you got to do some tweaking or whatever, especially towards the line at the beginning where Mio's just like, wow, you sound like you're from the city or whatever. Like your accent has changed or whatever.
Hey, you! I made
yeah.
the islands!
In most other anime that they have a Kansai accent, they usually either just make it like country American sounding or it's like Brooklyn accent for some reason. There was one case, New Game has a character. I fucking love New Game. Has one character who has a Kansai accent. In the manga, they decide to translate a Kansai accent as like a fucking Cockney British accent for some reason. So you just have shit like, the fuck is all this? When her siblings are fighting or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, this sounds
kind of
amazing.
amazing,
Yeah.
This
It
is
was actually
amazing.
an amazing choice for it, even though like maybe it doesn't make sense if it's like a country thing, but it's just fun to read. I would rather see it like that, but
100%. I'd rather fucked up Cockney accent than Yar.
Yar just gotta save me, okay?
That literally sounds like the accent that they use for the Pirate World and Sonic Prime.
Yeah, I'm not trying to read multiple pieces here. I'm trying to read some of the time running around.
Oh my god. When the shadows are like talking towards the end of volume 2, it's not the shadow talking a fucking thick Kansai accent of Shinpei trying to explain stuff.
It'd be funny though. It'd be funny.
I don't want him to say like, "You're all going to die." Okay.
So Shinpei actually, if you notice a lot of his dialogue, really the only thing that he picks up is the woke. It would make sense, and it would honestly be really good dialogue writing if, as the series goes on, he adopts a lot more of those accent things because he
becomes a pirate. Let's go.
So thematically that would be good, right? But every single time they do the accent thing, it takes me out a little bit because I'm just looking at the fucking word, going, "What is this shit?" That it makes it hard.
For some reason, I didn't notice that. I'm not sure why.
It's because it's actually Canadian. It's fine. It's a Canadian accent. They're gonna say they bet instead of beat. They're gonna say sorry.
Some of the pages where they lay it like really thick in the dialogue, it's like real fucking painful to read.
It's like every time with Ushio too, where they're like showing up, say some important cryptic shit, and I'm just like, oh my god, I have to dissect her saying "woke" and "just do this" or whatever. I
might just have autocorrect in my head. That's the problem.
Listen.
Yeah, and the most annoying part is like when I'm consuming media that it like isn't a movie, or I'm writing or something, I animate it in my head so that it like I am watching a movie or something in my head.
Yeah, I get that.
I can't hear their accents.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what they're supposed to sound like because
it feels like it's going in several different directions for me. Like I can't stick it to one accent because it seems like it's doing like I don't know. I think the translator tried.
Feel like one accent.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the translators never actually translated a Kansai accent before, so they weren't sure what to do, but they knew it was important because it was brought up at some point. Honestly, I probably would have been better if like they didn't actually try to translate it.
Yeah,
because it just keeps taking me out.
It offhand or something.
Yeah,
I prefer they didn't.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's like probably like the only like main complaint I have about this series. I think was just that keeps annoying me a little bit, and this is like the official translation. That's a little annoying. The one thing I did want me and Shadow. Well, I don't think Shadow saw this. I don't think I was streaming it at the time, but I had mentioned when I was looking up the official release of this, Udon Entertainment is like the people who published the English version.
Oh yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah.
And on the website, they have one review of this, and it's a 1-star review from somebody, and it's a dude being very, very angry about how, like, saying how horrible it is never to get it because they censored like 3 panels that show Mio's nipples for some, like the shower scenes and stuff like that. And they're like people like him and some other people. I tried looking into like how bad it was, and it was just other people being very angry at like the 3 panels they censored, so they weren't showing like a 16-year-old's nipples in a shower scene that didn't matter.
I guess that's what happens when you know it's coming and you're furiously masturbating, and then you get to the page and then there's no nipples, and you lose your erection.
Yeah. I don't know.
I can't relate to it. Sorry.
I feel like people like that, like they got tricked by the first like 3 incidents in the first chapter. The swimsuit girl, and then the face and the tits, and then the panty shot.
You're right.
Like they probably got tricked by all those into thinking there was going to be way more fan service, and they were very disappointed to see that the few times they got something, it was censored by Udon Entertainment because they didn't want to show a fucking 16-year-old naked. I don't know.
I have 2 more notes.
Yes. What are your notes?
Okay. So the first one was actually something that one of my coworkers taught me about, again, during that whole horror sci-fi. That was something that I didn't know about, which was I guess there's like a Japanese myth that cameras or taking pictures captures the essence of a human soul.
Right.
That's why I can't see vampires.
Fatal Frame.
Yeah. So that was the thing where I'd mentioned if he happened to provide some information on that in 20.4 or 20.5, I hadn't read that, but it was something that I thought was interesting and I wanted to bring up. And then the other one is definitely me reaching a little bit, but
let's see it.
So I'll read exactly what I wrote because I'm not sure how else to describe it.
Okay.
But it was, what does the mother's other eye allow for? Is it space related since the shadows modify space and she sort of appeared out of nothing? And how did she use the time eye before she lost it? Was just generally what I had written down for that. And as I was thinking it back, maybe it's possible that the way that the eye interacts in the human body is not the same way that it interacts in her body. So her control over like this like time eye maybe doesn't actually benefit her in any way. Because like if you had that power, wouldn't you just like go to wherever you needed to like consume the power that you needed? But like whatever. Those were just the last few questions.
It's like
It's
she's
limited.
Death, you know.
It might be limited for her too. So she might have gotten to a point where she couldn't go back and she lost the eye, even with like being able to go back. You know,
Right.
That's fair.
like how the MC has the chance of getting defeated in that sense, where he may hit a point where he can't fix it. You know, she
Right.
might have
Yeah.
hit that point too.
Yeah, and like, there's a lot of questions that we'll still have about the mother at this point. It seemed like that, you know, most of that ceremony was to revive her to full power, or like to some kind of a lot of power or whatever, so that she could do something that seemed to end everything if she gets to it.
It
Yeah.
seems like that just ends the world if we
Yeah,
hit that part. If she gets restored there.
yeah. Well, good thing Shinpei has that eye, the time loop meme eye, whatever that's gonna turn out to actually be. How he received this power from Dream Ushio, I don't know, time
knows?
travel bullshit. We'll find out later, I guess.
See, at this point, I don't think that's Ushio or that or I got it. Shinpei's not the god; it's Ushio that's going to
Oh,
be
damn.
revealed to be the god at
Oh,
the end.
God.
Oh damn!
It's really gonna be Higurashi.
Oh no. So like I really like the I didn't think I was going to give a shit about the setting, but I like the setting with how it like sets up each of the characters and their dynamics in this kind of place. You got the crazy wise old man dude that everyone just kind of probably ignores because he just rambles on about the shadows probably.
Yeah.
Policeman.
You got this mystery like writer girl who's going around this place looking for, I don't even remember what it's called, but it was some kind of like tourist food, but like she's also investigating these shadows and like hanging upside down from trees, watching them and stuff like that.
As you do.
You know, Mio and like her father run this like restaurant, a bistro that people go to. The one cop, there's like one cop on the island.
Yeah.
And people, he's like barely a cop. He's like coming into the fucking bistro and immediately just looking at porn on his phone.
You don't do that, Wolfborg? You don't do that?
Listen, okay, listen.
He's actually the guy that complained about the nipple censorship.
Yeah, true. It was him. It was the police officer.
One thing that keeps fucking me up is that I don't drink soda and stuff. I only drink like water. And one really popular flavor watering is Mio. So every time I read Mio, I just like, for a split second, I'm thinking of just flavored water. It keeps messing me up.
I like Mio's shadow as like this cutesy looking fucking murder knife. There's like one shot from the anime that I think I used for like one of the thumbnails of my review articles of the episodes where it's just her with like a ooh woo kind of face, but like holding a bloody knife or whatever. And I think that same exact frame was here in the manga too, because, you know, obviously it would have been based on the manga. The like shadow versions of these people, they like retain some of the traits. So that makes me wonder, is Mio actually just underneath like a fucking psychopath and just holding it back?
That would be a really
Always assume the worst.
interesting like turn, because I was just thinking about the fact that like it seems like some of the shadows do retain their personality, because Mio's shadow is definitely like very closed off, like I want to get the job done, whereas Shinpei's is almost like more talkative than Shinpei is.
Well, he's got the bird's eye view. Just like our main character just keeps focusing on the bird's eye view. I don't think I remember them saying the bird's eye view once in the anime, and this one's like every 3 fucking pages. Bird's eye view, bird's eye view.
I don't think Mio's secretly a psychotic person, just because the other shadows as well were also psychotic when they were killing people. Like So, I don't know how to say his name.
Oh yeah. So
he was like murdering on top of the real Mio, being like, "Oh, how tragic!" into its skull drug next. I think they're just psychotic when they're murdering.
Nah, maybe this is him really letting it out. Maybe he really wants to murder Shinpei so he can finally date Mio. Because Mio, there's like a whole romance element to this too, where like So likes Mio, but Mio clearly has feelings for Shinpei,
who is her adopted brother.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. This keeps happening. Why?
Because anime. All right. I don't know what to tell you. It's a thing.
Why does the almost incest keep happening? Why?
Listen, okay. It happens. It's been known to happen. It'll keep happening in every light novel you ever read. All right. It's fine. I shouldn't say it's fine, but it's accepted at this point for the most part by most fans. I don't know if I accept it most of the time, but it happens. It's been known to happen.
I just kind of ignore it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because it's not really going anywhere, no matter how much you complain.
Unless
I
it's
guess.
Luna. Unless it's Luna.
Oh yeah, from Fire Punch. Yeah, and that. listen. At that point, they're no longer actually related at all. He just has tricked himself or the woman into thinking that she is his sister, which is a different layer of fucked up. But it's not incest. But it's not incest fucked up, so it's acceptable.
Yeah, it's not incest because it's a proxy of his sister.
Yeah, true. There you go.
No, I was thinking the Luna in his head. I kept telling him to become Fire Punch, but that works too.
Everything's fine. Shadow is taking over an entire island. That's pretty impressive of you,
I
Shadow.
just posted on Discord, okay? There's Shadow Man, there's Shadow. There's also Nightmare, just so you guys don't get that goofed up either, okay?
I don't think I was going to ever get Mega Man people goofed up. Don't worry.
Can't believe Shadow's literally a French colonizer.
I always knew. I always knew.
I'm
I had
Shadow
my suspicions
Man. I'm
from
not a
day
Shadow,
one, okay? Yeah, so we have like this romance element going on with Mio, So, and all that, and I don't really care. I don't care at all so far for So in general. So is probably like the least interesting character to me so far, at least.
What's so funny is actually in, I think, the second loop when Shinpei was telling him, he was so not reactive. I actually thought that it was going to turn out he was a shadow.
Yeah, I thought so too at
I
first.
was impossible all the time, Shinpei.
I remember when I watched the anime, I thought that immediately. I was like, bro, So is definitely a shadow. There's no way.
Definitely a shadow.
Yeah, so summertime rendering is interesting so far, though. I mean,
I really like it.
Very strong beginning. I am still kind of worried about, like, we basically see the climax of what the Shadows are trying to do. So I wonder what I wonder where it's going to go from here. But we got 13 volumes, so it's not ending.
I had an idea about that.
Yeah.
So you brought that up earlier, where like obviously it's going to go past that point. I just assume it's going to be like a thing where he's going to get his power limited up to the point where they're about to, sacrifice everyone and summon Mother, and then he's gonna fix it just enough where it gets stalled but doesn't fix the problem, and then the story will continue that way. Like we'll still pass that point in the timeline to give us enough time to have more volumes, but the story will continue.
That's fair.
I also try to think to myself, like, it seems like there's not too much time for him to work around, but it actually might just feel like that because we time skip a lot for like events to happen.
Yeah, I think was it 2 or 3 days? I know it was 2 days from the funeral, but was it 2 or 3 days to the...
I know it was at least 2 days for the it might have been 3 days, but he shows up there on July 22nd.
I think the festival is July 25th.
Okay, then he's got a few days to do things. We probably just time skip through a couple things.
You can drag that out for 13 volumes if you need to.
Yeah, especially since he's only really moving up in like it seems like increments of maybe 5 to 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, look at the show 24. I think
we
got 72 on this one.
That's true. I do like the ending volume stuff, like the 20.5 or whatever, like the extra memo stuff. I like that the author is adding all this extra lore stuff for you to read. It's kind of annoying how wordy some of it is.
That's why I didn't read it.
I didn't read it yet because I didn't know it existed.
I don't care. I would do that too.
A lot of it's just kind of like bonus information about the characters, but a couple of it is like Shinpei's notebook where he writes down each loop and what has happened on each loop, which is very thorough, which again, I look at that and I'm like, God damn, Shinpei is like the smartest protagonist I've ever seen in ages. It's like refreshing. And then like I worried for a second, like, oh, him being this smart means that like there's not going to be that much to...
He's going to make a dumb mistake.
Well, no, I was worried it was going to be too easy for him to solve, but then the bad guy is literally him too. So it's like a clone version of him. So I'm like, okay, that adds elements to it.
I just had a thought. What if, right? So this is a meta thing, but what if Shinpei is the author in self-insert and his journal is the author's notes to write the story?
Shut the hell up.
What if what if Shinpei's notes that are super smart, that has like the bird's eye view of the whole story, is because it's the author's notes?
I cannot take that level of mindfuck.
I'm not saying it's in the story that it goes that deep. I'm just saying I bet you that's how the author wrote it.
You tell us the author is living this in real life and he's stuck in a loop and wants us to save him. He's like publishing this manga being like, guys, please, I need advice. I don't know what to do.
I'm just saying that the author wrote this in like a journal, like POV style, and is not made into into a manga.
I mean, that might have been more so like what he was doing to plan out the story. I think, like,
Yeah,
he's
that's what I
planning.
mean.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just like,
No, I don't mean it's like a real conspiracy.
no, well, I thought you were saying either that or he was LARPing as his own character
No,
or
no,
some
no,
shit.
no. I mean, no. When I say POV, I mean like
planning it out, really.
Yeah.
Or like outlining the story.
Yeah,
no,
like
so you said author, and I assume that you meant the author that's in the story, and like
Oh.
Shinpei was her second self-insert, like her gender-bent self-insert in the story that she's already a part of.
Base.
Like, I can't like stop. I can't do that. But okay, I see what you're talking
That's
about.
too
Yeah.
good. That'd be too funny.
No, yeah, I was just thinking it was the author's notes with Shinpei's notes is where I got all of that from. Like,
But
not like it was a deeper point.
No, that's a cool way to do that. I've
Yeah.
done that sometimes with my characters, is like writing a diary from the character's perspective as a way to get like little bit like details in this broader world. That
Yeah, it's just that with the combined with the bird's eye view makes me think that it's like that's how the author did it or came up with it. Not necessarily
fair.
it's a conspiracy. It ties into the story, but
There was parts of it where like he like crosses off what he was writing at first too. That was what makes me sort of think you're right, because like you might add that kind of little detail to make it feel real, or you might just actually do it because you're trying to write it and you fucked up one part of it, so you just scribble it
yeah,
out and
because you're
write
writing a
next to it.
fucking time loop. You're gonna be scribbling out a lot of things, probably.
Right.
I'm looking at the picture that you have on the Twitch stream. Which is the eye that he got replaced? Is it the same color as Ushio's?
From what I remember, the one that looks really blue is supposed to be the eye that got replaced.
yeah, it is because in the manga they said mother lost her right eye, so that would be
that
his
would
right
be
eye,
right.
right? Yeah.
See, this just contributes to what I was saying about the fact that Ushio is more than a foreigner, and that's why that she.
damn.
Oh no, I think you're
comes
right.
into
Yeah,
the
Yeah, you're
timeline.
definitely right.
I think you're 100% right. I don't think she's a foreigner. I think she's like another. She's connected to the shadows, like another species or some like alien. Like I'm starting to think. I
She's
think
an
you're
alien.
right. Not alien, but I think like how Derek said that the author tried this before with aliens, right?
Jamazvu, yeah.
I think the author went with like this is an ancient race or an ancient species or like eldritch kind of shit,
Okay.
something ancient, and I'm guessing Ushio is like some sort of hybrid or connection to that, or like small percentage dragonkin type shit, you know?
If we were to go with the theory that the Ushio that was killed was her shadow, which I obviously this is all just purely theoretical. If she was technically part of like the shadow group, that she could still be considered a defector by the other shadows, even though it's like actually Ushio.
Anything could be possible, maybe. But what we do know, something weird's going on with Ushio. Ushio's doing some shit. Something spiritually. I don't fucking know. But Ushio's doing something. For some reason, she's doing it in the swimsuit the whole time. Don't know why.
That's the tagline of the entire manga. Ushio's doing something.
Something in a swimsuit.
Well, it's
the swimsuit's because she was supposed to have died in the swimsuit, or like she was copied while she was in the swimsuit.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
Sounds like hope to me.
the whole memory thing is gonna linchpin around the moment she died in the powers, like.
So, Chap, I am about to crush your whole dreams about the swimsuit thing.
Oh no!
Because the first shadow that we see of her, she's
she's not in the swimsuit. Wait, but then
she's just choosing to be in the swimsuit.
So when I first got into this series, when the anime was first airing, my immediate thought, especially when you had the dude in the restaurant that said, "Hey, you were asking about this earlier," and then them like Ushio seeing a shadow version of herself in a different outfit, I immediately thought, okay, somehow Ushio and or Shinpei are like physically traveling backwards in time somehow later and trying to affect things, and we just don't know about it yet. I got that kind of vibe similar with the beginning of Steins Gate, and you pretty much get this kind of vibe with any kind of time travel thing. Like once you see a couple time travel stories, you start realizing, hey, these like weird little incidents that happen in the beginning, it's probably something connected to later, and it's probably somebody coming back and doing something, and you don't realize it yet.
That's fair.
So I feel like it might be something related to later. Somehow they physically travel backwards and try to affect things, as opposed to like just going back through memories somehow. But anything could happen. We don't know.
We don't know.
The one thing I did want to bring up, that Jamais Vu, that other series that they wrote, and that's a concept that they might bring it up as like something that they talk about later in the manga, but I know for a fact they labeled episode 4 of the anime that, and it's supposed to be like the reverse concept of deja vu. So instead, it's like a concept that you're unfamiliar with that you're supposed to be familiar with.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this before.
Because like all these shadow people, they're like people who that you feel like you should know. For some reason, you have a weird feeling that you don't know them. That's why I think Mio at some point had mentioned like I don't like recognize some of the people on the island anymore or something like that. Somebody at some point had said some line, there's something along the lines of like people on the island feel a little different lately, and I don't know why. And that kind of concept is kind of being brought in. So that little test run series might be interesting to check out, I guess. But I also feel like that's the kind of series that nobody on Earth will have translated. So
did the Summertime Rendering anime blow up? Because it's one of those things where if it did, then their other
when it was airing, people were talking about it. The problem was the Disney Plus deal. So the Disney Plus deal meant, you know, it wasn't actually physically releasing at the time on the streaming platform. It didn't come out into Hulu until like 6 months after it finished airing or something like that.
Yeah, that was stupid.
You know, anime YouTubers and like my Age Otaku stuff was talking about it, but a lot of people weren't talking about it outside of that. So like it blew up within like the parts of the anime community for enjoying it, at least at the beginning. But then because of Disney just not releasing it weekly on their platform, it just kind of deflated it later on. So it wasn't really like as solidified as like a great anime at the time for people to reference for like awards and shit like that. Yeah, the Summertime Rendering anime would have blown up. It probably would have been like one of the like big animes of that year if it wasn't like locked in Disney jail. Oh, other thing I almost forgot. That fucking seashell thing. Do you think that seashell thing that was apparently from Ushio or whatever is going to be somehow related to whatever time travel power thing is happening? Because at some point I thought that.
In some stupid way.
That's why, I'm a little worried about that. I feel like it's going to be very cheesy.
Chekhov's gun thing, right?
It's going to be a fucking MacGuffin.
It's going to be a very cheesy
fucking
shell thing. Yeah.
This is, because it's an island, never mind. The fucking shadows are going to be like some ancient land evil, and like Ushio is going to be like the fucking good ocean counterpart.
Because she drifted in from the shore or something like that?
It's going to be like a mer people bullshit thing.
God damn it.
It might be.
Mer people
wearing swimsuits? What's interesting is they now have two, because Ushio's shadow, or whether or not, like, also has one. So now Shinpei has one, and Ushio's shadow also has one.
This is wait, hold up. This is a total foul ball. Okay, I'm just throwing this in the air in case I'm right, because it'd be hilarious if I'm right. What if the shadow was killed instead of Ushio, like I think
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, like you said, right? But you know how it's strangling? What if the mer people knew the difference and strangled her because they knew it was the wrong show? It really is mer people. Very unlikely, but in case it's somehow
I'm just hearing you shout, listen, mer people. What if the mer people? And I'm just thinking like, you're the crazy old man now on the island. Listen, son, the shadows are fighting the mer people.
Is it more crazy than the lolly is like actually a god who can control space and time and is trying to protect
I've seen things.
Village from alien parasites because the government is going to gas the whole village? It's Higurashi is stupid. It's awful.
Justin has thoughts about Higurashi. Okay, that's for another time. So mer people killing shadows. And listen, I'm not buying into the mer people theory just yet. Okay, it's gonna be.
I'm not either. I'm just saying, in case it's right, it'll be hilarious to call back on this and act like I'm Nostradamus.
You want to put money on it? You want to put money on it?
A bunch of shit in the book, and if one of them's right, I'm gonna take
You want to put money on mer people showing up?
No, I don't want to put money on it.
Coward.
Who the fuck would write about mer people? That's idiotic.
So what you're saying is, if mer people are revealed, this will be the worst manga ever. Is that what you're saying?
Probably.
Okay. So that's Summertime Rendering Volumes 1 and 2. General thoughts in general, I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it. I'd be cautious about like those first initial fan service scenes in the first chapter. Look past those because it like never happens again.
Yeah, I was thankful for that because I was like, here we fucking go.
Yeah, it was a good 9 on the sus meter, to put it lightly.
As far as we know, at this point, it does not ever happen again. There is a couple shower scenes. Udon Entertainment has thankfully censored them because we do not need to see shit there. I don't know why people were angry about that, but that's whatever.
This is what the artist intended. Yeah, well, the artist intended to be a fucking pedophile. Doesn't mean we have to post it online.
It has nothing to do with whatever you need for the plot. It was already kind of weird that we had the like panty shot in the first episode. It was already weird the panty shot, but then it was funny that we used it to reestablish, oh, this is a time loop. Like, I thought that was funny, but so summertime rendering is, I think it's great so far. Look past the fan servicey things. Try to look past the fucking accent that they're trying to do in the manga translation. So I would recommend it. The first 2 volumes I think are great so far. What do you guys think? Who would you recommend it to?
Straight up, I think it's way too early to full on recommend it because it's 13 volumes.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely intrigued and going to continue reading.
All right. So summertime rendering, I think we're going to be in for interesting stuff. I just hope it doesn't drop the ball with where it's going to go. I normally get really nervous about mysteries, especially time loop mysteries, when they get closer to revealing things and how they work. I get nervous about them, but we have so many volumes left that I feel like we're not even close to the end, even though it feels like it, towards
they're
where
in the
things
air,
are going to go.
They can either dunk or fumble at this point. We'll see where it goes.
We'll see where it goes in the next loop, which the next volume starts with the next loop. And we'll see how that goes. Oh my god. So we're going to be reading for next Thursday. We're going to be reading the next 2 volumes, so volumes 3 and 4. So once you see the cover for volume 5, then you should stop. Alrighty. So any final thoughts, concerns, anything that anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up the summertime rendering talk?
Mer people.
Mer people. Instead of aliens, it's just mer people, okay? It's already crazy enough we're talking about shadows. Now he's bringing up mer people.
Eldritch horror more people.
Are mer people, but water aliens?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for having the chat. If you are going to be here for next week, make sure you read the next 2 volumes. If you haven't been here, if you're listening to this like now or in the future or whatever, and you want to get involved with this, you still can. You can come into the voice chat next week if you read up to the volumes that we are, or you could just be in the chat and just message in the chat and we will read them. I don't think we had any chatters this week, but that's fine. That's because all of us were here. Usually it's like Anne in the chat talking to us, but now Anne is here. So, you know. So keep that in mind. Make sure to subscribe and all that and check out everybody else's stuff.
Okay, goodbye stream.
Okay, goodbye stream. I'm gonna turn off the stream. Bye stream.
Bye.